Before you can master your emotions, you must first acknowledge their power. Emotions are not weak things. They are strong forces placed within you for a reason. They alert you to danger, connect you to others, and reflect what is happening deep inside your heart. But hear this clearly. Emotions were created to serve you, not to rule you. The moment they take the throne of your life, confusion replaces clarity, and impulse replaces wisdom. Too many people live as prisoners of how they feel. If they feel angry, they speak in anger. If they feel afraid, they retreat. If they feel discouraged, they quit. And slowly, without realizing it, emotions begin making decisions that shape their future. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable leaders. They change with circumstances, with words spoken, with moments that pass. If you allow them to govern you, your life will be unstable, tossed back and forth by every emotional wave. Recognizing the power of emotions does not mean denying them. It means understanding them. You must be honest about what you feel without surrendering to it. There is a difference between acknowledge anger and acting in anger. There is a difference between feeling fear and obeying fear. Emotional mastery begins when you learn to observe your feelings instead of instantly reacting to them. Many people confuse emotional control with emotional suppression. They think strength means pretending nothing hurts, nothing bothers them, nothing affects them. But buried emotions do not disappear. They resurface later with greater force. True control comes from awareness. When you can say, I feel this, but I will not be driven by it, you reclaim authority over your inner life. Your emotions often speak the loudest in moments of pressure. When you are tired, rejected, disappointed, or misunderstood, they demand immediate expression. They urge you to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to strike back, or to withdraw. But wisdom teaches you to pause. That pause is powerful. In that pause, you decide who is in control. Emotion can cloud judgment when left unchecked. Anger convinces you to say words you cannot take back. Fear convinces you to abandon paths you were meant to walk. Pride convinces you that you must always be right. But when you recognize these emotions without surrendering to them, you gain clarity. You begin to respond instead of react. Self-mastery does not happen overnight. It is built through daily discipline. Each time you resist the urge to let emotion speak first, you strengthen inner authority. Each time you choose restraint, you grow. Emotional control is not about becoming cold, it is about becoming grounded. When emotions are mastered, peace becomes possible even in chaos. You are no longer controlled by the mood of the moment or the behavior of others. You become steady. You become intentional. You become free. So recognize your emotions, respect their presence, but never hand them the steering wheel of your life. Because when you lead your emotions instead of following them, you step into true strength. One of the most powerful moments in your life is the moment between feeling and action. That brief space, often overlooked, is where mastery is formed or lost. Learning to pause. Pause before you react is not weakness, it is strength under control. When emotions rise quickly, wisdom moves slowly, and that slowness protects your future. Most regret is born from reaction. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in fear, commitments broken in frustration. In the heat of emotion, the mind narrows and the heart races, urging immediate release. But immediate release often brings long-term consequences. The pause gives you time to breathe, to steady yourself, and to remember who you are and where you are going. Pausing does not mean ignoring what you feel. It means refusing to be rushed by it. Emotions demand instant expression, but maturity demands restraint. When you pause, you step out of emotional chaos and into clarity. You allow reason to speak before emotion shouts. Silence in that moment is powerful. Not every feeling deserves a response. Not every offense requires a reaction. Not every thought needs to be spoken. When you choose silence instead of impulse, you protect relationships, preserve dignity, and prevent unnecessary damage. The pause is where self-control is practiced. It is where you learn that you are not obligated to respond immediately. You do not have to explain yourself in every moment. You do not have to defend your pride. You do not have to act on every emotional signal. That awareness brings freedom. Many people believe that reacting quickly shows strength, but true strength is measured by restraint. Anyone can react. Few can remain composed under pressure. When you pause, you rise above the moment instead of being consumed by it. Pausing also creates space for perspective. What feels overwhelming in the moment often loses power when given time. Anger fades, fear weakens, clarity returns. The pause allows truth to catch up with emotion. This discipline must be practiced daily. You will not master it in one moment. But each time you pause instead of reacting, you build emotional endurance. Each moment of restraint, strength. Your character. There will be times when silence feels uncomfortable, when your emotions urge you to speak, to justify, to respond immediately. But growth often feels uncomfortable before it becomes natural. Discipline always precedes freedom. When you learn to pause, you take control of your inner life. You stop allowing circumstances and people to dictate your responses. You become intentio. Now, you become steady. You become wise. The pause may last seconds, minutes, or even days, but its impact can shape a lifetime. Decisions made in calm reflection carry peace. Actions taken with clarity carry purpose. So learn to pause, breathe before you speak, reflect before you act. In that space between feeling and reaction, your strength is revealed. Emotional control does not begin with yo or feelings. It begins with your mind. What you think shapes what you feel, and what you feel influences how you act. That is why lasting emotional mastery requires a renewed mind. Without renewal, emotions will always overpower reason because the mind has not been trained to lead. The mind is constantly being shaped by what you allow into it. Words you hear, thoughts you repeat, images you dwell on, and voices you listen to every day quietly form your emotional responses. If the mind is filled with fear, worry, and negativity, emotions will reflect that chaos. But when the mind is grounded in truth, emotions begin to align with stability and peace. Renewal is not a one-time decision, it is a daily discipline. Just as the body needs nourishment each day, the mind needs consistent renewal. You cannot expect emotional strength if you feed your mind with doubt and distraction. What you dwell on will eventually dominate how you feel. Many people try to control emotions without changing thought patterns. They fight anger without addressing bitterness. They fight fear without confronting anxiety-filled thinking. But emotions follow thoughts, change the thinking, and emotions lose the IR grip. A renewed mind brings clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin to respond intentionally. You recognize when a thought is leading you toward fear, pride, or discouragement, and you challenge it. You do not accept every thought as truth. You learn to filter thoughts instead of absorbing them. Renewing the mind also strengthens emotional resilience. When pressure comes, you're emo. Shans no longer collapse under stress. You remain steady because your foundation is strong. The storms still come, but they no longer control you. This renewal requires discipline. It means choosing what you focus on when your mind wants to wander. It means redirecting thoughts when they spiral. It means replacing destructive thinking with truth even when emotions resist. Growth happens in those quiet choices. When the mind is renewed, emotions no longer dictate your identity. You stop labeling yourself by how you feel. You stop believing temporary emotions define permanent reality. You gain perspective. A renewed mind also brings peace, not because problems disappear, but because emotional balance replaces emotional chaos. You become grounded, not shaken by every circumstance. Each da. Why presents an opportunity to renew your mind. Every morning is a reset. Every moment of reflection is a chance to realign. Over time, emotional discipline becomes natural, not forced. So guard your thoughts. Feed your mind wisely. Choose truth over impulse. When your mind is renewed, your emotions fall into order, and strength becomes your way of life. There are emotions that arrive quietly and oceans that arrive like storms. But some of the most dangerous ones are the ones that feel justified. Fear, anger, and pride often disguise themselves as protection, strength, or self-respect. Yet when they are allowed to lead, they distort judgment and derail purpose. Mastery begins when you recognize that no emotion, no matter how convincing, should be given authority over your decisions. Fear speaks in urgent whispers. It tells you to retreat, to avoid risk, to choose comfort over calling. It paints the future with uncertainty and convinces you that safety is found in standing still. But fear has never built anything lasting. It narrows vision and weakens courage. When fear dictates your choices, you begin living a life of avoidance instead of purpose, always protecting yourself, but nay. For truly growing, anger, on the other hand, speaks loudly. It demands immediate action. It convinces you that reaction is justice and that restraint is weakness. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but it is reckless. It burns bridges, damages trust, and leaves consequences long after the emotion has faded. When anger controls decisions, wisdom is silenced and regret follows. Pride is quiet or equally destructive. It convinces you that you must always be right, always recognized, always in control. Pride resists correction and rejects humility. It turns simple disagreements into personal battles and small issues into lasting divisions. When pride governs decisions, growth stops because learning requires humility. These emotions are not enemies, but they are dangerous leaders. They re-signals, not guides. Fear signals caution, anger signals injustice, pride signals identity, but none of them should decide your next step. Emotional maturity is knowing how to listen without obeying. When fear rises, pause and seek clarity instead of retreat. Ask yourself whether fear is protecting you from harm or preventing you from obedience. When anger rises, pause and choose restraint. Justice does not require explosion. Strength does not need noise. When pride rises, pause and choose humility. Growth begins where pride ends. Decision-making must be rooted in truth, not emotion. Emotions shift with circumstances, but truth remains steady. When truth leads, emotions fall into proper place. They become servants instead of masters. Learning this takes practice. You will feel fear 4 important steps. You will feel anger when boundaries are crossed. You will feel pride when challenged. Mastery does not mean these emotions disappear. It means they no longer control the outcome. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, humility over ego, and courage over fear, you strengthen character. You become grounded instead of volatile, intentional instead of impulsive. Your future deserves decisions made with clarity, not chaos. Purpose requires discipline. Growth demands emotional control. So do not let fear, anger, or pride dictate your path. Because when truth leads and emotions follow, your life moves forward with strength and peace. Emotional pain is something everyone experiences, yet few understand its purpose. Most people try to escape it, suppress it, deny it. But pain, when approached with wisdom, is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to shape you. The very emotions that feel overwhelming today can become the source of your greatest strength tomorrow if you allow them to refine you instead of define you. Pain exposes what lies beneath the surface. It reveals wounds that have been ignored, expectations that were misplaced, and areas where growth is needed. While comfort hides weakness, pain brings it into the light. And once something is exposed, it can be healed. Growth never happens without honesty, and emotional pain forces that honesty. Many people allow pain to harden their hearts. They build walls instead of wisdom. They close themselves off instead of opening themselves up to healing. But pain does not require bitterness. IT invites transformation. When surrendered properly, suffering deepens compassion, strengthens patience, and matures perspective. Pain teaches humility. It reminds you that control is limited and strength is learned, not assumed. In moments of brokenness, pride loses its grip and clarity emerges. You begin to see what truly matters. You learn that resilience is built, not inherited. There is all else. A refining process in pain. Just as pressure shapes raw material into something strong, emotional pressure shapes character. Without struggle, endurance remains undeveloped. Without disappointment, hope remains shallow. Pain stretches faith beyond comfort and into trust. Transformation begins when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this shaping within me?" Pain shifts from punishment to preparation. It becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. Emotional growth does not mean forgetting pain. It means understanding it. It means allowing it to deepen wisdom rather than distort identity. You are not your wounds. You are who you become through them. When pain is surrendered, it produces strength that cannot be learned any other way. It builds empathy for others. It creates depth in character. It prepares you to stand firm in future challenges. Avoiding pain delays growth. Facing it with courage transforms it. Healing begins when pain is acknowledged, not ignored. Strength follows surrender. So do not waste your pain. Let it refine you, teach you, and strengthen you. Because when emotional pain is transformed, it becomes the foundation of unshakable strength. There is a higher way to live than being driven by whatever you feel in the moment. Emotions rise and fall like waves, but a life anchored in faith and conviction remains steady no matter the storm. When feelings lead, direction is lost. When conviction leads, purpose is preserved. Mastery of your emotions reaches its fullness when your life is guided by what you believe, not by what you temporarily feel. Feelings are powerful, but they are unstable. One moment they inspire courage, the next they invite doubt. If you build your life on emotions, you will live in constant reaction to circumstances. But when your foundation is conviction, you stand firm even when emotions are unsettled. Conviction gives you direction when feelings are confused. Living by faith means choose. Obedience over impulse. It means continuing forward even when emotions resist. There will be days when you do not feel strong, confident, or motivated. But faith does not depend on feeling ready. It depends on trusting what you know to be true, even when emotions disagree. Conviction keeps you steady during hardship. When emotions tell you to quit, conviction tells you to endure. When feelings tell you to retreat, conviction calls you to stand. This is not denial of emotion, it is leadership over it. You acknowledge what you feel, but you refuse to be governed by it. Faith-led living brings peace because it removes emotional pressure. You no longer need to feel perfect to move forward. You no longer wait for emotions to align before acting with purpose. You move because you are committed, not because you are comfortable. A life driven by conviction produces consistency. You show up even when emotions fluctuate. You remain faithful even when feelings fade. And over time, that consistency builds character, trust, and strength.
This kind of life also brings clarity.
Decisions are no longer dictated by mood or circumstance. They are guided by values, truth, and purpose. Emotional storms may pass through, but they no longer control direction. Faith-led living requires daily surrender. Each day you choose truth over impulse. Each day you align actions with conviction. Over time, emotions begin to follow instead of lead. His is where emotional mastery becomes freedom. You are no longer controlled by temporary feelings. You are anchored, steady, and purposeful. So live led by faith. Stand on conviction. Let emotions take their proper place, because when faith leads and feelings follow, your life becomes unshakable.